Alright guys, welcome to day one of this 7-day video sprint. I forgot in my intro video to give a quick shout out to Blake Eastman, good friend of mine, and it was his idea to try making a video a day for some amount of time. He boasts that the longest number of days he did a video in a row was 64. I decided to start out just a little bit smaller than that with 7, and we'll see how it goes. So like I mentioned in the first video, this one's going to be pretty straightforward. It'll be something you've seen a lot of before from me. It's just going to be some hand analysis from some hands I haven't gone over yet. Both of these hands I'm going to go over are from when I was in Atlantic City for the World Series of Poker Circuit Event. They're just at 2-5 at Borgata. I want to start out with one that I think I basically butchered because I think it's good to kind of show those hands where I know I made a mistake, and even, you know, arguably mid-hand I was kind of thinking to myself, this is probably a mistake. Keeps me, you know, on my toes in terms of wanting to show you guys times when I didn't make the right move, and also kind of discourages me from doing it in the future because I know I might have to tell you guys about it. So with that all being said, this hand again is 2-5 at Borgata. A tight-ish, middle-aged white guy opens from middle position to $30, and I call from the small blind with ace-10 offsuit. Already, I think this is a mistake. I think that this kind of description of a player is enough to say that he's not really opening significantly worse hands than what we're holding. And particularly out of position, I'm going to want some kind of card edge or a plan post-flop for what I'm going to do. Now, if he's opening a little bit wider, like if he's opening down to like the smallest pairs and also some suited aces and stuff like that, I could arguably 3-bet this hand effectively just as a bluff, but I think that's also kind of questionable, and it's probably just a fold pre-flop. The big blind also calls. We go 3-way to a flop of 10, 8, 6 with 2 spades. I do not have a spade in my hand. It checks to the preflop raiser, and he c-bets $75 into about 90. I call because I have top pair. I'm now actually beating a decent amount of his opening range preflop, and there's not really any merit at all, I think, to raising. It's a little bit weird with another player in the hand, but even so, if I check raise, I'm just going to completely isolate myself against hands that are beating me pretty much from the original opener. So not really something I'm looking to do. The big blind ends up folding, and we go heads up to a turn. 240 in the pot, if I'm not mistaken. The turn is the 7 of hearts, which means that there's a one-liner out there to a 9. I check. The original opener bets $200. This is a pretty tricky spot because a lot of players get kind of scared in this situation when they see that a one-liner comes out. They will often put more 9x in my range here than what I actually would have. Now, there's definitely some 9x that a lot of players would have in their ranges here, like stuff like Jack-9 suited, 10-9 suited, 9-8 suited. I could have always flopped a straight. There's sorts of combo draws I could also have that, you know, flopped a flush draw and a gut shot and get there. To then see this really large bet from this player often indicates that they just want to take it down. They think it's a scary board, and not so much that they actually have a good hand, because a lot of showdown value type hands, at least in position, are going to check behind here, or at least bet significantly smaller. This is all going through my head during the hand, and I unfortunately didn't really have much of a read on this player. Post-flop, I just kind of, you know, he's opening tight pre, and he hasn't really gotten out of line post, so that doesn't really lend itself to calling, but I'm actually fairly close to the top of my range here. Maybe not close enough to call, but, you know, I wasn't really sure what he could be doing with this for value, and I thought there was a decent chance that he would be checking back over pairs a lot. The other awkward piece of this hand is that I only have $305 when we get to the turn, and he's bet 200, so I can't really call and then check fold the river ever. It's like I can either call and check call the river, or I can ship the turn for, you know, less than a min raise, or I can just fold right now. So I decided to just put the money in, and he obviously called, and he had pocket kings. And I don't remember what the river was, but I bricked out. It's a little bit tricky because I feel like once his cards are turned over, like if I'd watched this exact hand play out, obviously I don't need to call the turn. But he just shouldn't really have any nines in his range when he bets this on the turn. I mean, he could have pocket nines, I guess, but it's pretty unlikely. I think he can definitely have stuff like the nut high flush draw. When we don't have the ace of spades in this spot, it means that he can have the nut flush draw and barrel here and, think that this is a scary board, so he's going to keep going. So in a lot of ways, I don't really hate my call on the turn. I just feel like, my pre-flop decision kind of snowballed into a tricky set of decisions on the flop and turn. Even though pre-flop, a lot of people kind of gloss over pre-flop, I think it was a big enough mistake that that's what the takeaway should be from this hand more than anything else. This next hand goes a little bit better for me in terms of my decision making, I think. So we'll show both ends of the spectrum here. Still at 2-5, still at Borgata. Early position and middle position both limp for 5. And I'm in the cutoff with red kings, and I make it 25. I don't remember my thought process for this sizing. I think in general, if there's 2 or more limpers, I'd probably go more like, if there's 2 limpers, I'd probably go more like 30 to 35, depending on who they are. 25 is a little bit on the small side, but depending on what the kind of standard table open is, it's not necessarily bad, but I just think I'm going to get multiple callers reasonably often when I make it 25, and that's not the ideal outcome with kings. But whatever, I go $25, and both of the limpers call. The flop comes king, queen, 10 with 2 spades, so above average, and they both check to me. I c-bet $55, and middle position is the only caller. In picking my sizing here, I think, at first glance, this is a fantastic board because we have top set, and it's wet enough that people are going to continue with draws. But by the same token, we don't really have the nuts here, and it's kind of unlikely that we're ever like super coolering anybody here because we have sorry, it's my friend Steve just texted me complaining about something. What the hell was I talking about? Oh, right, sizing. So even though we have top set, it's fairly unlikely we're coolering anyone because the combos of hands that we would be coolering here, like king, queen, and king 10, we block like all of them. Queen 10 suited is still out there, but there's only 2 combos of that, and there's like probably 16 combos of ace jack in at least one of their ranges. I think the open limper, it's tough to say. I mean, I don't really have a lot of info about these guys' limping ranges, so it's hard to know whether they're limping and over limping stuff like ace jack, but like jack 9 suited, maybe jack 9 offsuit, those are ahead of us and beating us like very handily. And by the same token, there's like a lot of really bad turn cards for us, both in the sense that certain hands get there and in the sense that they can kill a lot of action. On this board, king, queen, 10 with 2 spades, pretty much any ace, jack, 9, or spade is a pretty bad card for us. Cards that pair the board are great for us because we can sometimes let our opponents improve while also improving to a nutted hand ourselves, but there's not that many of those. Like probably our ideal run out is like 2 red little cards, like a 3 and a 2 of diamonds. That would be a pretty okay run out. I want to bet big both to charge draws for trying to get there, and also basically to get the money in now before some kind of action killer comes. Anyway, I think I actually could have bet bigger. There's about 75 in the pot, and I only see bet 55. I think I could definitely go 65, maybe up to like 75, and it's not going to look like a crazy amount. I think if I start betting between like 80 and 100, I'm just going to fold out way too many worse hands. That being said, there's a lot of pair plus open-ended that they could get there with, like queen jack, jack 10, even king jack sometimes. Maybe I could even get away with like 85 here and just go a little bit over pot. But I chose a small sizing, a smaller sizing of 55 and only middle position calls. So he was the over limper, not the open limper. The turn is the 7 of diamonds, which is a pretty great card for us. The pot's now roughly 110 plus 75. It's about 185. He checks again, and I bet 125. Again, this is a little bit smaller than I could go. I think I could get away with like 140 to 160 60 maybe, kind of for the same reasons that I described on the flop and why I want a bigger sizing there. There's still a ton of action killers. There's still a ton of cards that are better for his range than my range, so I'd love to get, you know, a bigger bet in now. He ends up calling, and the river is the not so great Jack of Clubs. You know, it's not it's not a perfect run out for us. You know, there's a lot of hands that now beat us if he's willing to peel like second pair or, you know, third pair with a gut shot. It's hard to know if he's willing to peel those hands twice. But even stuff like King 9, Queen 9, 10-9, if those peel twice, we're in terrible shape now. It seems like it's pretty hard to get value. That's the other thing, is that not only do some of his hands get there, the hands that don't get there are now like, well, crap. Like any ace high beats me, right? At this point, I don't really think we can go for any value. I think it would be optimistic to bet here. When he checked to me, I ended up checking behind pretty quickly. My hand ended up being good against Jack 10 of hearts, so that hand fits perfectly into the sort of, you know, type of, you know, kind of class of hands that I would have assigned him. It's hard to know if he would have called here or not. I mean, I think it's pretty thin. I think you're going to get shown a better hand a lot of the time when you bet and get called, and our hand has so much showdown value against his range kind of at large that I think it's just a chuck back. I'm not sure yet what my video tomorrow is going to be, so again, if you guys have any ideas, leave me a comment down below and I will consider, you know, turning it into a video. I have some other ideas too that I am excited about. If you guys haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please make sure you do. That way you'll see all my content as it comes out. If you like this video, please consider hitting the thumbs up button. And as always, leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought. Love hearing from you guys. See you next time. When I was in Atlantic City for the World Series of Poker,